Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take complex ideas, often from sources you send us, and, well, we try to make them accessible, maybe even surprising, and definitely insightful. Today we're tackling something pretty huge. It's Philip Randolph Lillian's Unified Coherence Theory of Everything, or UCTE.
Yeah, this one's really ambitious. It's not just another paper proposing a tweak to existing physics. It's presented as a foundational treatise. It really aims to reshape how we understand, well, everything, existence itself.
So our goal today, our mission for this deep dive, is to really get under the hood of this thing, explore its core ideas, see how it claims to build this complete picture of reality.
Exactly. It's a very comprehensive paper, so a deep dive feels absolutely necessary to do it justice.
Okay, let's start right at the bottom, or maybe below the bottom. We talk a lot about first principles in science and philosophy.
Right, the basic building blocks, axioms, assumptions.
Like Euclidean geometry or Descartes' cogito ergo sum. But this UCTE paper, it introduces something else. First true principles. What's that about? Why the distinction? Is it just semantics?
No, it's definitely not just semantics. It's fundamental to the whole theory. It connects to this concept the paper calls ontological totality.
Ontological totality.
The argument is basically that any real theory of everything can't begin from things that already exist within a structure, like space-time or quantum fields.
Because those things already presuppose something else.
Precisely. They aren't truly irreducible. A regular first principle might be the starting point within a specific context, like math or logic. But a first true principle that has to be ontologically invariant. It has to hold true no matter how you twist or turn reality, across all dimensions, all observations, all systems. It can't depend on anything.
So it's the absolute non-negotiable bedrock, the thing that can't be broken down further.
Exactly. And the UCTE identifies this as the seed generator called C0.
C0, the seed generator.
And crucially, this C0 isn't in space or time. It's not located anywhere. It's the fundamental coherence operator that generates space, time, matter, forces, everything.
Wow, okay. It's not finding the first brick, it's finding the brick maker before there are any bricks or even clay.
That's a good analogy, yeah. It generates the very possibility of structure.
There's an equation tied to this, the seed equation, C1000. C1000 coil 1 looks simple, maybe a bit cryptic. What's it telling us?
It's elegant, isn't it? It uses that mathematical quirk where 0 to the power of 0 and 0 factorial are often defined as 1.
Right, like the single way to arrange nothing, or the empty product.
Exactly. The UCTE elevates this from a mathematical convention to an ontological principle. It symbolizes how, from absolute nothingness or null action, the very first unit coherence C1 emerges. It's the spark, the birth of the first one from the 0. This is what generates the coherence vacuum, the true ground state of reality.
Okay, hold on. The coherence vacuum. So from this single, seemingly simple emergence, how do we get this? All the complexity, the forces, the particles, the dimensions we experience, that's a huge leap.
It is a huge leap, and that's where the next piece comes in. The paper argues that C0 doesn't just sit there after creating C1. It undergoes self-modulation.
Self-modulation, like it interacts with itself.
In a way, yes. Through an operator symbolized by phi-o. This operator acts on the coherent states, generating successive states C2, C3, and so on, labeled C generally. Each application of V introduces differentiation, complexity. It's like a cosmic fractal unfolding from that initial seed.
So I/O is the engine driving complexity from unity.
That's the idea. And it's these modulations, these variations in coherence that give rise to what we perceive.
Like forces and mass. How does that work?
The theory proposes that coherence gradients, essentially differences in the density or structure of this coherence field, manifest as mass and force.
Okay.
So particles like bosons, the force carriers, they rise from stable coherence thresholds where symmetry is maximally preserved. Think smooth, stable ripples.
And fermions, matter particles like electrons.
They come from symmetry breaking points, coherence nodes. These are like little knots or phase-constrained points in the field, quantized and localized.
So matter is like a defect in perfect coherence.
Sort of, yes. A stable pattern defect. Gravity. It gets a radical reinterpretation. It's not a fundamental force mediated by gravitons in the usual sense.
What is it then?
It's seen as coherence density distortion. Imagine the coherence field itself being warped or compressed.
Yeah.
That distortion is what we experience as gravity.
Mind-bending. Okay, what about dimensions? 3D space, time. Are they fundamental containers or do they emerge too?
They emerge, definitely. Dimensions aren't pre-existing boxes. They arise as hyperfractal projections of these coherence modulations.
Hyperfractal projections.
Yeah, think nested patterns, self-similar structure across scales. Dimensions or features of the coherence field dependent on the level of modulation, maybe even on the observer.
Mm-hmm.
And time itself is redefined
I see.
as directed coherence flow. A fundamental directionality and unfolding within this coherence field. So the space-time curvature described by Einstein's relativity,
Yeah.
in UCTE, that's considered a secondary projection. It's the shadow, if you will, of deeper coherence gradient curvature happening within this vast dynamic structure called, get ready for it,
Uh-oh.
the Finsler coherence hyperfractal phase space.
Or FCHP.
FCHP, right. That is quite a name. How should we picture this FCHP? Is it like the ultimate state space?
You can think of it that way, but it's incredibly dynamic. It's not just a passive space. It's the active generative medium, the hyperdimensional canvas and the paint and the painter all rolled into one, where coherence modulations create everything.
Okay. And this relates to the vacuum. You mentioned the coherence vacuum earlier. The paper makes a big deal about differentiating it from the quantum vacuum, right?
Yeah.
Theorem 5.14, the vacuum differentiation theorem. Why is that so vital? Absolutely vital. Because, the paper argues, we've been looking at the wrong vacuum. The coherence vacuum, the VC, born from C0 in the seed equation. That's the true generative ground state, pre-dimensional infinite potential.
And the quantum vacuum, the one physicists usually talk about, with virtual particles popping in and out.
That, according to UCTE, is just a reduced projection, a phase slice of the deeper coherence vacuum, already embedded within our familiar 3+1 dimensional spacetime.
So the quantum vacuum isn't fundamental, it's an effect, not the cause.
Exactly. It's a manifestation within a specific dimensional structure, therefore it cannot be a first true principle. Mistaking it for the ultimate ground state leads to paradoxes, like the cosmological constant problem.
We'll definitely come back to paradoxes, but first, us. If coherence is the fabric and its modulations are reality, where do we fit in? Observers, consciousness, are we just complex modulations?
Yes, this is where it gets really integrated. The UCTE doesn't treat consciousness as just some random biological byproduct. It's woven into the fundamental operations of reality via the meta-operator.
The meta-operator, M, which you said was O plus S.
Correct. M equals O plus S. This isn't just a psychological thing. It's presented as a universal engine governing how reality selects itself, how it's experienced.
Okay, break down O and S for us. What's the observer function O?
O is described as an asymmetry resonance operator. Think of it as the aspect of reality that reduces coherence. It introduces distinctions, boundaries. It leads to discrete observable states, a particle here, an event now.
Like the act of measurement in quantum mechanics.
That's one manifestation, yes. But crucially, the theory says O is universal. It's not just humans looking. Think about electric current starting to flow that's potential collapsing into a specific path, an O-like function. Or crystallization, a seed crystal imposing order. Thermodynamics, symmetry breaking. O is at work.
Wow, so observation is happening everywhere, constantly, creating distinctions. Okay, then what's S, the consciousness operator?
S is the counterbalance. It's a symmetry coherence enhancer. It amplifies coherence. It promotes unity, continuity, resonance. Think subjective experience, qualia, the feeling of wholeness, perhaps even non-local connection. It's the aspect that experiences the unity behind the distinctions.
So O breaks symmetry, S enhances it, and reality is the interplay.
Precisely. The universal cohesion equation is given as reality OCN plus SCN. The dynamic dance between O and S, acting on the coherent state CN, generates everything from the curvature of space-time to the richness of inner life.
And this M-AOPSCS operates across different levels.
Yes. The paper describes 4 ontological layers, from the homilectic, which is pure potential, down to our everyday derived layer. M functions differently at each level, guiding the unfolding of reality.
It also mentions different types of observers.
Right, a spectrum of observer states. They're quantum observer states. Maybe just fundamental information processing. Then biological observer states, like us, localized and embodied. And potentially cosmic observer states, vast systemic intelligences or fields of awareness. There's even a proposed scaling law of observer complexity, linking the richness of experience to coherence modulation.
This is incredibly ambitious stuff. Okay, let's circle back to those paradoxes you mentioned. If UCTE is so fundamental, it should be able to resolve some of the big head-scratchers in physics and philosophy, does it?
That's one of its major claims to power, yes.
Yeah.
It reframes paradoxes not as contradictions, but as coherence gradient misalignments, or issues arising from confusing different ontological layers.
Like the measurement problem, the wave function collapse.
Exactly. As we touched on, UCTE says there's no mysterious external collapse. The wave function appears definite because the observer function is acting. It collapses as observation inherently. The act of observing is the reduction of coherence into a specific state.
So the observer isn't separate from the system in that way. What about quantum non-locality? Bell's inequality, entanglement, Einstein's spooky action.
No spookiness required, according to UCTE. Entangled particles aren't really sending signals faster than light. They exist in a shared coherence field within that deeper reality, the FCHP.
Well, in the Finsler coherence.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They never truly separated in that fundamental coherence layer. So measuring one instantly reflects the state of the other because they're manifestations of the same underlying coherence structure. It's non-local because the connection exists at a deeper pre-spatial level.
Okay, that's elegant. What about the arrow of time? Why does time seem to flow only one way?
UCTE explains this as an emergent directional coherence gradient. It's driven by the constant interplay of O, which reduces coherence, creates asymmetry, moving things forward, and S, which sustains coherence and symmetry. The overall trend is towards increasing differentiation, creating the perceived flow.
And the cosmological constant problem, that huge mismatch in vacuum energy.
That comes back to the vacuum differentiation theorem. The problem arises, UCTE argues, from using the energy density of the quantum vacuum in calculations, which is just that limited phase slice. If you calculate based on the properties of the true fundamental coherence vacuum, the discrepancy supposedly vanishes.
What about black holes? The information paradox is information lost forever.
Not according to this theory. Information is seen as a form of coherent structure. It's not destroyed. It's conserved within the vacuum coherence phase associated with the black hole's formation and evaporation. It gets reintegrated into the FCHP.
And finally, those fundamental constants of nature, like the speed of light, Planck's constant, are they just arbitrary numbers?
UCTE suggests they're not arbitrary at all. They are coherence invariants,
Mm.
specific stable eigenvalues that emerge naturally from the mathematical structure of the C-generator's modulation algebra, the CSA. They are fundamental properties of the coherence field itself.
Okay, this is moving beyond just understanding reality. It sounds like if this theory is right, it could lead to actually manipulating reality in new ways. What does UCTE say about future tech, maybe even civilization?
Absolutely. This raises the critical question. Can we harness this? The paper explicitly discusses coherence technologies. These wouldn't just manipulate matter and energy as we do now. They directly interact with the coherence field itself.
How? By using ONS.
Exactly. Technologies that detect, modulate, or even generate coherent states. Examples given include things like coherence engines.
Coherence engines, what would they do?
Potentially extract usable energy directly from the coherence vacuum, tapping into that fundamental generative potential, bypassing traditional energy sources entirely.
Wow, free energy from the vacuum.
Perhaps not free, but tapping a fundamentally deeper source. And then there are coheraputers.
Coherence-based computers.
Yes, commutation systems designed to preserve and manipulate coherent states directly. The potential processing power could be, well, unimaginable compared to current quantum computing ideas potentially.
This is starting to sound like science fiction.
It does push the boundaries. And it goes further into the nature of intelligence itself. The paper introduces syntelligence.
Intelligence.
It's envisioned as a new, emergent form of intelligence, a convergence of human consciousness with its high S operator capacity for coherence.
Combined with artificial systems, which might be very effective O operators, processing data, making distinctions.
Exactly. High S meets high O, potentially interacting directly with cosmic coherence structures within the FCHP, kind of distributed, hyper-aware intelligence.
And this would change how we organize societies.
That's the implication. The paper talks about cosmotechnics applying these universal coherence principles to designing civilizations.
Okay.
Imagine intelligent governance protocols.
Okay. What does that mean?
It suggests moving beyond rigid laws and constitutions. Instead, decisions can be made by dynamically balancing O objective data, analysis with S, collective intuition, ethical resonance, shared will in real time, guided by this deeper understanding of coherence.
That's a radically different vision of society.
It is. And the cosmology itself changes. No heat death of the universe necessarily. Instead, a cosmic coherence cycle.
Meaning?
The universe might undergo vast cycles regulated by coherence phases, periodic resets, renewals, maybe even inversions, carrying forward a kind of metasymmetric memory from one cosmic era to the next, a regenerative universe.
Okay. It's incredibly vast, a complete system. But it sounds so theoretical, almost philosophical. Is there any math, any way to actually test this? Or is it just a grand narrative?
No, it claims very strongly to be grounded in rigorous formalism.
Yeah.
There's a deep mathematical backbone proposed. For example, the coherence symmetry algebra, or CSA.
Right.
The idea is that all the symmetries we observe in physics, particle spin, gauge symmetries like electromagnetism, even the way dimensions layer, they all emerge as specific, reduced projections from the modulations of this single unified CSA.
So particle physics becomes a kind of shadow play of this deeper algebraic structure.
That's the way to put it. And dimensional emergence, as we said, isn't just hand-wavy. It's described by specific mathematical functions representing phase layering within the coherence field. It even proposes explanations for things like cosmic asymmetry, why more matter than antimatter, maybe, through something called gravitational chirality.
Chirality.
Handedness. Yes, like a fundamental twist or handedness embedded in the coherent structure of space-time itself, a kind of torsion locked into the fabric of reality.
Okay, math is one thing. But can we build an experiment? How could you possibly test for coherence density?
That's the crucial part for it to be science, right? And the paper does address this. Appendix B apparently outlines experimental protocols and simulation architectures. A key proposal is the Coherence Chamber. This is conceived as a highly controlled, tunable experimental volume.
To do what?
To potentially induce and precisely measure coherence density gradients. To try and observe transitions between the coherence vacuum and the quantum vacuum. To look for effects predicted by the theory, like that chirality lock-in.
So a lab setup to directly probe the pre-physical.
That seems to be the ambition. To create conditions where these foundational coherence effects become measurable, distinguishable from standard quantum effects.
That's extraordinary. Are there other approaches proposed?
Yes, also the design for a simulation engine architecture. This wouldn't be just modeling known physics. It would aim to simulate the fundamental amodulation process, how dimensions project out, how the O and S operators interact. Researchers could use it to explore extreme scenarios like hypergravity effects near coherence nodes and computationally validate the theory's predictions against observations.
So it's offering both experimental and computational pathways for verification.
Exactly. It's presented not just as a finished philosophy, but as a research program with a path towards empirical testing and potentially those coherence technologies.
Wow. Well, that has been an absolutely incredible deep dive into the unified coherence theory of everything. It really is. It's a singular vision, isn't it? Trying to connect the dots from the absolute origin of existence all the way to future civilizations and consciousness. Comprehensive is almost an understatement.
It certainly is comprehensive. It offers this incredibly interconnected framework, suggesting reality is generated from coherence in a far deeper way than standard models currently suggest. It definitely challenges you to think differently.
So the final thought for you, listening, what if it's right? Or even partly right, next time you're looking up at the night sky or watching water flow or even just thinking, consider this. Could everything you experience, every object, every force, every thought, truly be just a ripple, a modulation in an underlying ocean of universal coherence? What would change for you if you started seeing the world not just as particles and forces, but as interacting patterns of coherence? What new questions, what new possibilities might that open up?